Well, that slide that's not showing is supposed to say, this is the car forms update that we're doing. I'm Sam Hayes. This is why with One Stop. And it's not a Zoom presentation unless something's going a little goofy. So I've been doing this actually now 23 years. I'm a car certified transaction coordinator, forms trainer, zip forms trainer, realtor, notary, short sale, what is it? Short sale resource and foreclosure resource and probate certified. So I'm a big nerd. I love all this stuff, and I'm excited to share my take on what I've seen about the new forms with you today. Granted, everything I'm going to tell you, verify with your broker of record, always check in with C.A.R legal. But here's kind of what I was able to surmise from the training I've had, and we'll go from there putting these into practice. So as of tomorrow, they are supposed to be dropping 55 new forms, which this needs to slow down a little bit. We'll get this thing to calm down. With that, why is everybody like, it'll be fine. There's 35 form revisions, 8 silent revisions. And we're going to go ahead and switch how this is doing this because it's presenting wrong. So just one sec. Go into presenter mode because my computer's just having a party without me. Okay, so trying this again. 55 total forms updated. Everything else is happening. I'm just going to go this way. I am done with you today. Okay. I'm not sure why my Zoom's having a party without me, but it still is. Anyway, moving on to that. Those are the forms that we've got coming up. Here's with the RAD that we have. And the RAD form, why are you doing this? Okay, we're just going to go with the small screen and make it work that way. All right. 55 total forms, 2 new forms. We have the RAD and the UOA. The UOA is really specific. I'm going to go very lightly over that because I typically don't work in those areas of California. It's for 1 year and it's regarding unsolicited offers and documentation to make sure that fair real estate practices are taking place up in the LA areas and the Burn areas. There were 35 total form revisions. A lot of them are not major changes. It's where they find spelling errors or little tweaks or rephrasing of items. There were 8 silent updates. That means there are no changes whatsoever. They are trying every 4 years to update the forms to make sure that they are current. And then all of the RLA, RPA, BRBC, your counters, everything is updated. There are 13 new rental related forms. I don't do as much leasing, everything else, so I'm not covering those today. There is a legal live specifically on that available if you are a C.A.R member. That will be available starting next week. Okay. So with the RAD, let's see if we can get this guy to blow up at least a little bit more so everybody can see it. Maybe I can get everybody to get this to stop. The RAD form is going to be something that I think we are going to be using on all of our transactions. What it's doing, and my Zoom and everybody is fighting too much today. So what's going on with this form that's a big deal? It's going to be used just for, oh, excuse me, more for not just disclosing I'm a realtor. We've got more lawsuit stuff going on right now. There is a issue regarding compensation and not being disclosed, and they're coming now after all the referral agreements. After we dealt with Sitzer Burnett and settling out about transparency with compensation, what was taking place, there is now concern that referral agreements were not addressed with that. And are they properly being disclosed? Is everybody aware who's getting paid? Are we staying in compliance with that? So to get ahead of this, and other lawsuits that could be pending. They being C.A.R. is getting ahead by wanting to be very transparent on what is a referral agreement, who is getting compensation from where, what, why, all of that fun stuff. So what they did is they took the RA, which was just the Realtor Acknowledgement form, and they've expanded it to now also having a disclosure with it. With that, what that's doing is we're saying, hey, I'm a realtor. I have to participate and be part of the ethics that we all, the code of ethics that all realtors agree to. Then it's also going into if you've got a problem with me, who do you talk to? Well, you talk to my broker and you talk to the agent. Talk to me. If there's a problem, let's work together first. Still a problem? Okay. We go to the broker. Then let's go on to other levels. But there are different people here and we are wanting to be of service. So let's talk if we're having a transaction issue between myself and the buyer, myself and the seller before we escalate things. Also, if you're another realtor and I'm having a problem with you as a realtor, call my broker. That's what my broker is there for. We don't need to be going about other things. We do have certain chains in place. We have people who want to be of service on these transactions. So, asking, stating this is how you move forward, giving everybody a very clear path so we're not going straight to lawyers and other things. The other disclosures is going, I might be getting paid for multiple ways. I might be getting a referral fee because I worked with you and I'm getting a referral fee on that commission. I may be getting paid by both the buyer and the seller. A lot of times negotiations are taking place right now with RPA 3G3. And so, with that, the issue that's coming up is so the seller negotiates down to the buyer. I'm only going to give you a credit of XYZ percent, even though you agreed to ABC percent on your BRBC. I'm not giving you that full amount. And the buyer and the agent talk, the agent's like, hey, we agreed. So there's still this amount hanging out on the ABCs. Maybe A's still owed to me because XYZ is covering the others. I'm getting paid from two places. I'm now getting paid from the buyer broker agreement and I'm getting compensation from the RPA. This is important to use because we're disclosing I'm getting paid from multiple sources. The other thing is, do I have any interest in the property? Did I help flip it? Am I part of an LLC? Is my broker part of a group? Am I representing in front of referrals? New constructions come up. Does that count? Probably won't see it on those. Could it be when you're dealing with any of when you've got a relo situation? What about that? Are you getting paid from relo and getting paid from the agents? When in doubt, always it's better to over disclose than under disclose. It could not be a big deal, but it's much easier when we put everything out so everybody can see it and talk about it and not have it be a surprise. The whole point of all these extra disclosures, extra clarification, transparency, so there are no surprises. This is a huge deal. People are buying their dream. This is their like future. This is massive where they live. So we don't like people getting surprised along the way from one of the biggest life decisions they're ever going to make. Transparency is a good thing. That's what these forms are here to help us do. Then we also go into going, is there a referral fee being paid? Okay, so am I getting that? How am I getting paid? Who's paying it? What am I getting compensated for? This is why we now are having both buyer and seller are signing off on this, that they are aware this is what's going on. Well, what if you have multiple relationships? What if this referral fee goes through and you also, because I'm sorry, this also needs to disclose your relationships. Is it my husband's property? Do I have my own investment, my own involvement, all of that type of thing, or special relationships? Anytime you think you have a relationship to them, even if it's your brother, sisters, mother's, cousin, four times removed, it's not going to hurt to disclose it. And trying to guess, well, is it blood related that we have to do? Is it by marriage that we have to do? Well, if you think you have a relationship in any way, shape, or form with any of the individuals in the transaction, disclose it. It's not a big deal. We have now this form to disclose it. We are now telling you how I'm getting money. Transparency is good. Shared knowledge is good. So that's what we are working on here, and that's what we're using these forms for. There is a specific quick guide available. I will do a reference for that for you as well. Now, that RAD that we are just talking about is now going to be attached to the RFA for the referral fee agreement. This now states there are multiple options. What if you're working with, as they cited when I was listening to the Legal Live with C.A.R, an investor? Well, what if you got like 6 or 7 deals and he referred you out to this and you were getting a referral fee on this one because you referred him to that and blah, blah, blah. You got this to clarify. So if you're getting paid on one, you're getting paid on 2 of the 3, or if you're getting paid on all of them, we can clarify that and we can explain that and document that that information was shared. Also, is how long is the referral for? Is it for a year? Did you guys do 2 years? What if you're working on a development project? Or what if it is very high-end property? Some of those don't move as quickly in certain price points. What's the length? Well, that is also getting clarified. This must be signed by the broker, this or the office manager, whoever has broker signing authorities. This is not signed by the agents. This needs to be because the commission is the brokers. So they need to go ahead and sign off. It also has now acknowledgement that the other brokers are aware of it. What if, I have a listing and I didn't know that we're selling, I'm working under my broker and I didn't tell them, hey, by the way, I'm giving away part of the commission. They need to know this is all their file. The broker is ultimately responsible, brokerage oversight. So this is basically cleaning up. Okay, how much am I getting paid for? How many times am I getting paid for? Have how long am I getting paid for? And by the way, I told my broker. That's really the summation of the form. It's cleaning it up a little bit. It's all the little things that we already should have been doing, making it easier so it's documented in the files. Now, I borrowed a slide over from C.A.R. from their legal live presentation because it's pretty solid. Who's getting the money? Who's not getting the money? Also, are we in compliance? Have we been in compliance? Was this actually working for these different articles that are within the ethics codes? And were we actually doing it properly? What about the civil codes? What about full compensation or full compensation transparency? Yeah, we need to do that because then we need to do that to be in compliance with the NAR settlement so we don't have an opportunity to have more adventures and things showing up. Is it best practice? Always. Transparency is always going to be your best practice. And then you're also going to the whole thing of that only brokers to brokers can do commission referrals. I cannot just say, oh, my brother, sister's cousin gave me this referral, so I'm sending them part of my commission. No, that's not how this works. It has to be RESPA exempt, it has to be broker to broker. That's why we have to have this. Now, if you're dealing with non-entity situations and relating back to this and principles when you were dealing with more your commercial properties or anything that is not a RESPA transaction, the 1 to 4 federally related loan, how can we get around this? Whatever. You still want to document it. So that's why we want these other forms or we want something that's in place being very clear about who's getting what and why. Transparency is our bestie. We want to make sure there's a paper trail that it was communicated. I told my client, I can't defend that in court. We said this. Oh, no. Text are, I'm not a fan of text. I wanted an email or I want it on an actual form, but I want something that is a full document so that if these files go to court, which as mom taught me, we always make sure addressing every file that it's like it's going to go to court, that this way we know what's going on and we have it properly documented. So there is another, what is it? Their town halls tomorrow on, it's the last one. They're not recording them because C.A.R doesn't, but there's an opportunity if you are a C.A.R member to go ahead and attend that. But again, there is a quick guide on this. It's pretty basic stuff if you think it through. It's again, extra documentation, making sure there's clarity. So wrapping up on the RAD and the referral, there were a few updates also to the buyer broker agreement, which kind of does also, that's why the RPA, the RLAs, the BRBC, everything was updated to reference the RAD, and it was updated to show clarity that this stuff should be shared as soon as you know. So timing on all of this, why the BRBC brings in, we want to do that as quickly as possible. But it's just not always, it's not written out specific because we have that conflict of the NAR settlement where everything has to be disclosed, documented, and in writing prior to any action as an agent. Or you have the California law, the AB 2992, which says as soon as possible, but prior to an executed contract. I'm a big believer in anything, whatever is the most restrictive rule, whenever there's a conflict, whatever is the most conservative, restrictive, that's what I'm going to apply across the board. So my suggestion always is to do your referral agreements as quickly as possible, have everybody in the loop, send it over with your offers starting tomorrow when these forms are available. That would be December 16th, 2025, in case anybody's watching this in the future. Or if something happens during the transaction or it got forgot, as quickly as you know. Life happens and mistakes and things get forgotten, but the sooner we can share this info, the better. Moving that to the same thing with BRBC. Again, this needs to be signed as quickly as possible. This also clarifies your timing. They've updated because remember, an individual has different rules and regs versus when we're dealing with an entity buyer, LLC, partnership, everything like that. It automatically is a 90-day default unless we're dealing with an entity. Then we don't have the same restrictions that we do dealing with individuals. It also clarifies the continuing time for continuing rights. Well, when do I get to say, well, we canceled, so what if you go into a deal on a property I showed you? This clarifies that. This sets up your dates. This explains if timing for the cancellations. It doesn't matter. If we agreed for the next 60 days, if you go buy that property that I showed you and I can prove it because I've sent you a list with my cancellation of the BRBC, hey, we saw all these properties, then that is continued right for compensation to be owed. And then, of course, the RAD reference that we were just discussing. So they're little, not major tweaks this year, not major things, but it's little bits of, again, clarity, 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 and spelling it out for everybody so we know exactly what's going on. All right. It's always fun coming back for your first one of these after it's been a minute. So, the RPA has also had some revisions to it. TOPA gets forgotten a lot. And we know that the buyer may not know those are tenants in there, or they may not know that there's an adult child living in the property because that's considered part of the tenancy. That's still, unless it's the anybody over the age of 18 who is in the property for 1 minute or longer after the executed contract, that is considered having a tenant. So you're always going to want that TOPA for protecting your client. And it's worth asking who's in the property, who's going to be vacating, all of that stuff while you're negotiating. Get ahead of it. If you're on the selling side and we're responding to an offer and we notice the TOPA is not marked, but you know that the adult kids, like I shared a house with my mom for years, I would have been a reason we had to have a TOPA. I'm not a tenant per se, but I am technically under the law because I am over 18 and I am not one of the people on title. Or you can have just regular tenants. What if we're selling a property, you got a duplex and somebody's renting out the other unit, or we're selling a property that was a rental? The TOPA protects the buyer. It really does. It goes into stating all the things about if we can't get the tenants out, and with all the changes in tenancy laws since the pandemic, it's really important, something to pay attention to. This is basically belt and suspendering the fact that we need to get the property vacant, and it's seller responsibility unless something else is documented and negotiated in the contract. That's all it is. It's just another cleanup, another clarification, another no gray area. This is what's going to happen. Same thing with the other update that they did. This is something I have been advocating for a long time. If the sellers know, they know. I understand being exempt, but the exemptions do not protect you from material fact. They do not protect you from if there's knowledge. You were there, you maybe grew up in the house 50 years ago and you've been over for every Christmas and you know that your parents had a flood 2 years ago and you know that there's an issue with the neighbor and the fence. You're going to want to disclose that even though you're technically exempt as a seller, not exempt from material fact. And the ESD is very limited. The SPQ, the first page of the SPQ is the same as the ESD. Those are the same documents. The benefits of using the SPQ, if you have a seller who has more knowledge, this can go into getting the questions. It's a little bit cleaner, get into the details, maybe helps jar the memory of the seller, anything that they may or may not be aware of, that they didn't remember they were aware of, I should say. So those questions help trigger it and get you back to it. It's fine to use either one, but the more info they have, it's better. And if you have the opportunity, go for it. Legal Live, a lot of times, also, or the legal hotline, I should say, excuse me, will definitely say, hey, disclose, disclose, disclose. If you think they can fill out a TDS, there's nothing wrong with that. They can state they've never resided in the property. It's not going to be harmful to do more disclosure than less. It's when we don't disclose things that are known and we don't have proof they were disclosed, then we're starting to get into major issues. The other change to the RPA is that our new civil code coming out. And this is the required language regarding the electrical systems must be in a 1 to 4 TDS, non-TDS exempt property. Everybody should get electrical inspection. With changing about service panels, sub panels, the wiring, there's fire risk issues. What if you need to be able to do solar generation? Can it do the transfer solar generation? Do you have space heaters, electrical water heating, electrical charging equipment, all that fun stuff. I expect we most likely will have its own disclosure, probably depending on how things change up here in the next little bit. But for now, this will comply with the new law that's coming in. The SPQ was also updated, and now it does reference using and on 5 when you're on page 1, it states that, hey, use the receipt for reports. You can go ahead and use this document if you have any additional reports or anything else. That's the place you put it, not TDS 1, section I. That section was created a few years ago to meet, I believe it was a lawsuit. I think they were starting to change civil code, but I know there was a lawsuit. So if a new construction or somebody else is replacing, meeting all civil code requirements, but using their documents, they mark the box to see other reports. Typically, and you can check the quick guide on this, 99% per C.A.R, verify that on the quick guide, does not apply. So when you have extra reports and everybody's marking TDS section page one, section I, don't do that. You want to do it here where we're going to go in and use that RFR on SPQ 5. The other things that were updated is again, we're talking about gas power restrictions, all of that fun stuff. Your clients may or may not be aware of the different laws for different areas coming in. And then also any residue by any smell test or whatever of smoking tobacco, nicotine products, electronic cigarettes, vapes. Here's the thing. This one gets into what do I smell? What do you smell? What seems like residue to me? What's not residue to you? Can I see the residue? If you know anybody has been actively smoking any substance of any kind through any device of any kind in the property, it's best to disclose. You, and unless you're going in and purposely testing, but different humans are sensitive to things in different ways, and there could be issues down the line. Maybe they didn't realize it. They're in the space, and now they feel that they can smell stuff after close. You didn't disclose. Why worry about that? If anybody's smoking anything in any type of means, form, whatever, best to use this. So go ahead, any residue from all those things. I would probably encourage you to mark yes. I'm going to tell you to verify all with your broker of record, verify all with C.A.R Legal. But if there's any question or any thought of it, that's what you're going to want to do. And those were the two big changes on the SPQ, three really. So the receipt for reports. I don't know if you guys had a problem with it. I had a problem with it. I did not like that it was signing off. Seller says this is all my reports and everything, and it's great. No, I'm not. I'm not signing that, especially if the buyer side generates it. The files I work on, I like to have the actual documents signed over this receipt for reports. I want them to see how many pages there were. I want to know they actually touched that report. I do not want the receipt to just be something they got arbitrarily and they're like, I never saw this. I want to be able to prove it. But for those that do use the receipt for reports or your broker requirements, they have now said this is for previous transactions. Or what if I have a report because when we weren't in, we haven't sold the property I'm in, but we sold a pretty family property next door and we got a survey done. Well, that wasn't from a transaction because it impacted the other transaction, but not this property. Would that meet the requirements? Well, my brain, because of being risk management, goes, well, yes, you give everything. But some people may say, well, it wasn't part of an escrow, so I don't have to give it to you. They've eliminated that. If you have something, share it. If you don't, you don't. But if you have documentation, if you have proof, if you have anything, hand it over. It's again better to disclose. We don't know what's material fact for anybody else. Don't want to have fraud issues. If you even think, should I share it? Share it. Unless there's some reason that unless it's a personal take or a personal opinion, and even those you still probably may want to share. Again, verifying all with your broker of record and of that file and and C.A.R Legal. These are the best practices, and these are the little tweaks and why they made the changes. It also now this form is different where it can be generated so that either the buyer or the seller, whoever's receiving the reports. What if the buyer has a request for repairs that's got 25 reports and we're trying to make sure we've tracked all of them? You could use this for that. You could now tie this to the request for repairs. It's a good tweak. I think it's going to be helpful. I'm still a big fan. I want you to sign the actual document. But these are some of the reasons why a lot of people, there was a lot of pushback about the seller signing off and saying, yes, this is everything I've ever had. Just the liability and exposure was just really high. So I'm glad they rethought that. That makes me feel better about this form because did not like the old version at all that we've been working on. Solar has now changed. Solar is now, yeah, okay. Canva, Zoom, and I are just having a fight today. Solar has now changed. We've got 3 pages to it. They've actually added a full page on the first page of advisory, and that's going through and explaining to everybody, hey, this is what's going on. You need to share all your records. Do you have electrical bills? Do you have your contract from when you bought it? Do you have any warranties? Have you had any work done? Did you have the panels cleaned? Is there any upgrades that you did since? Is there a leasing agreement? Is there a change in that? Share them all. It doesn't matter. Well, I only had to share the lease. I don't have to share the contract because we owned it and you're buying. No, I need all of it. Because also, who's servicing it? How are you getting serviced? Who do we have to touch base with? Is there anybody we have to connect with solar, with the electrical? Who do we need to know? Who are the new people for all the changes that are coming up? I have solar panels on my house, and there's already been some changes about compensation and credit because we're one of the solar plants. That's how we got our panels. And so they need to be in the loop with me. If I sold this property, I would need to make sure that they were in the loop with the new buyers because that does impact their bottom line. It impacts their monthly bills. This is why we're sharing this. The benefit of solar is amazing, but there are also so many document pieces of documentation, and things can change and rules and regs can change. We got to get everybody connected, and we got to make sure that buyer is seeing all the info so they know what they're getting into. Like, hey, in 5 years we only will be this, or I know I can go off grid in 3 more years because, sorry, 4 more years because of what we did and how we bought ours. But if I sold the house in 2 years, I need to let the next person know. Can't do that. That's what this is clarifying and telling everybody what to research, what to look into, the questions, assuming loans, making sure that you get approved, time frames, information that can be requested, all of that with your solar. No, what it did is it went through and they have basically revamped the whole thing. I didn't go into the whole other solar property questionnaire page because again, they've revamped all the questions. Everything's much more specific. It's a little bit more detailed. They did do this great questionnaire instructions where it's explaining very similar to the SPQ. Hey, here's what we need. This is why we need it. This is what's going on. The purpose of this, a seller be aware, what we should be thinking about. So this is again, we're trying very hard to make sure that clarity, transparency, everybody has all the information they need before we record, before there's a problem, before contingencies are removed. That's why we have all these buffers. It's to make sure that we're giving everybody a chance to do their due diligence. It's why we have the buyer inspection advisory. It's why we have the disclosure information advisory. This is all to keep trying to mitigate going to court. It is trying to make sure everybody's on the same page and everybody knows what the heck's going on because this is again a major life transaction. It's a big deal, and everybody should know what they're going to be responsible for because it has legal and tax implications as well long term. So the other thing that was the SWPI, that's always been an issue. Well, okay, septic, when am I doing it? Well, I'll do it once you remove contingencies. I'll do it when you, no, 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 no. 7 days, same as disclosures. All the info, all the reports, all the 7 days. Everything needs to be 7 days. The UOA, which is the other new form, I didn't really go into it again because I'm not in those areas. It's still there's some questions about it. If I do get a property or you have a property in the LA and Ventura specific areas that are impacted from the fires over the past few years, this is a 1 year stand to basically make sure there's nobody going in and doing real estate naughtiness, as I call it, or going in and doing low ball offers and really harming the area, the people that have been affected and impacted. We need to make sure that if somebody wants to sell their land, it's not because I solicited you. You actively, as a seller who owns one of the properties that has been damaged or may no longer be standing, that you have made the decision to go sell and that we have it in writing that you have made the decision. I didn't come ask you. I'm not soliciting you. I'm not trying to buy your property for some lowball number, that you were actually being respected and taken care of. I think it's a good thing, especially after all the devastation earlier this year, to make sure people are protected. There is a question about the recording. It is set up so that it can be a recorded document to stay with the deed. There was some confusion about how that, when they were explaining in the C.A.R Legal Live, I'm still waiting to see how that plays out. If you have a specific property in one of those zip codes, again, in the LA and Ventura areas, please feel free to give me a call. I will help you do some more research on it or get you the info as well. But it wasn't something that impacts my files because I'm usually down in San Diego, Imperial Valley, some of Riverside. So that's what's going on there. The other one is the Wildfire Disclosure Advisory is saying, hey, by the way, you know that FDS that you signed, Fire Home Hardening, and hey, it says within 1 year buyer, you're gonna have to bring that up to code, and everybody's gonna forget about that in 6 months. And guess what? You still have to do that. You agreed. Because the FHDS is actually an addendum to the contract, it's TDS level. So while we're trying to figure this out with all the craziness on the NHDs and when do we have it, on top of that, there needs to be a conversation with the buyer saying, hey, you are assuming this responsibility. You are going to do this. You've got to bring in compliance. You've got to have the report out. You've got to do all this stuff. Oh, no, no, no. It's fine. It's great. The house looks great. Okay, but you get a really good rain, and then you get what I get in my canyon, which is just wildflowers, and then they dry out, and it's just tinder all the way down. And the new buyer goes, I didn't know I had to be responsible for that. This is documenting that you told them, yes, you do. And hey, you need to be aware this is going to be something you're taking on with owning the property. So that's a pretty high view, quickie kind of summation of just brass tacks. Car Legal's got their video up on live. If there's one specific that you have questions about, I'm happy to go into it in detail with you. I'm available in person for doing presentations, Zooms, breaking down stuff. Even if I'm not the TC on the file, I'm always going to tell you to talk to your broker of record, and we double check stuff with Car Legal. But thank you for joining me today at my very wacky first back from being out on medical leave. Why with one step? I'm Sam Hayes. I love this stuff. Feel free to give me a call anytime. 619-993-7264. And we'll get better once I get back in the rhythm of things, I hope. Promise, maybe? I don't know. I'm probably still going to be just as goofy. It's just what I do. I really appreciate you being here today. I hope you have a great day. I'm going to stop the share here. And I will see you guys next week. I think I'm going to do new laws next week. I'll see how this plays out. I'll have an email out to everybody. Still getting back in the swing of it. I can't decide. Maybe send me an email comment below on when this is posted on YouTube. Would you want to have one next week, or is everybody because of the holidays? Maybe we just wait till January. I think we'll see. We'll see what wild hair I get up my butt. Have a great one. Thanks for being here.